So, let's see what's going on here. Hello, hello. I have no idea who is here and who isn't. Let's just see. What we can do is if we just go to my YouTube channel, because I'm sitting here in my garden and have no idea who is there. Let's just check this out here. To Travel UK. Live from my tent, here we go. I'm actually here. And I'm the only one. How cool is that? So, what we can do is if we just go to my YouTube channel. I'm the only one. No idea who is there. Let's just check this out here. Travel UK. Live from my tent. Here we go. I'm actually and I'm the only one. How cool is that? Hey Mario, how are you? Tell you one thing, it's already getting cold in here. Oh man. Better close that up, button myself up, so I think we're doing rather well. How's things? What the news? Are you still in lockdown, Mario? Hold on, I just have to adjust a few things here, so volume is down. Excellent. Hey Derek. Hello people, Steve. Nice to see you. That's awesome. Now, I'm just looking at that and there is like a heck of a lag in it, but I think the picture's okay because I'm actually sitting in the garden in my tent. I got a laptop here, a bit of a light because otherwise you wouldn't see me. So I'm actually really looking forward to do this now. So anyway, what's the news, guys? How is the lockdown treating you? Are you still buttoned up like we are here? You know, I'm wearing a hat or a cap basically because I haven't been to the hairdresser for 6-7 weeks now and it looks rather ridiculous. So one thing. Oh, picture good. How is the sound, guys? Can you hear me properly? Anyone? Just give me a little bit of feedback because, to be honest, I haven't got a clue what's going on. So, let's just see how that all goes. Anyhow, listen, I just, oops, have to pour myself a coffee and then we crack on. Right. Guys, what I want to talk to you about is what I use on my trip, on my, normally what I hide away, my rescue stuff if things go wrong. I call it my shit happens bag. So what I want to do is I want to show you what I have. On my bike I have plenty of these. I mean, you know them, they are waterproof bags, and I have certain bits I keep stored away ready to go. So what I do is just check. My sound is good, picture's good. Excellent, we're up and running. So the thing is, when you go on a big trip like I do, I always have the tendency to stay away from people. So I'm traveling on my own. I literally always a solo rider, go off the beaten track. So I think you have to take some precaution to get that right, because if you end up in trouble, you're really on your own. Now, these days, obviously, you know, especially around Europe or anywhere you go, really, you are okay when it comes to getting help somewhere. But this whole scenario changes when you drive off the beaten track and, I don't know, you're maybe 50 miles on a forest road or somewhere else, really off the grid, and your motorbike breaks down or you fall and you hurt yourself. And I think this is where the whole idea of having a shit happens bag and stuff ready to go on your bike is really important. So I mean, that is my thought about it. What I want to show you is I have a few items. I want to give you a heads up on it. Now here's the deal, right? I show you some stuff. I will not put affiliate links in. I'm not telling anyone to go out it because it's super extra good. That is just my idea of what may works. Okay, so let's start with lights. Right, you need, when you hit the deck, you definitely need to look after yourself. There's a few things you always need. You need water, you need food, and you need shelter. That's the main thing. If your motorbike breaks down and you're in the middle of the nowhere, that's the first thing you have to address. It's not about fixing the motorbike, it's being safe. That is your main priority. If you hurt yourself, it's a completely other ball game. But I don't want to address that in this video because that's something I want to show you a bit later on, what I have in my first aid kit, how you can prevent certain injuries when you have stuff with you, what you can have like on the first aid side, for example, ointments, creams and stuff, because I can't stress it enough. When the shit hits the fan, then it's too late thinking about it. Right. Let's start with navigation. Okay, everyone has one of them. But when you are in trouble, then you may run pretty quick out of battery power. On the other hand, is, for example, a lot of people use their mobile phones for navigation. So if you have it on front of your bike and say, I don't know, you just fall down a bit of a hole with your motorbike and you smash your mobile phone, you end up in trouble. You don't know where to go. So hence, first item on the list is my good old trusted compass. Now a compass is nice and good if you know how to use it. So all I can do is, guys, get yourself a compass. And I'm not talking about one of these Rambo compass what you have on your little knife. That is definitely not for you. You need something serious where you have measurements on it so you can actually calculate the distance. Now everyone who spends some time in the army or was a Boy Scout or whatever knows how to use them. All I can say is get one of them and learn how to use them. Obviously you need a map, but it's a good start. If you, for whatever reason, don't have a map and your mobile phone is running out of juice, most of the mobile phones have a compass on it. At least what you can do is you can get the bearings with your mobile phone, look on your map on the phone where you are, set a direction on the compass, and then just walk away. I mean, that is a very primitive, but it's something you can really do. So that is one thing I definitely recommend. Get yourself a compass. Before we go into any equipment, one thing is my shit happens list. On the list, basically, it says over here what I do is normally, say for example I go to Spain, Norway or whatever, I have a list for every country, and what I do is on one side I have it all written down in English, or German in my case, and then I go into Google Translate and translate the whole thing into the language of the country where I'm in. I think that is important. You need two of them, because what you do is you leave one on the motorbike and you take one with you in your pocket, so in case something happen and you will be found, people know what to do with you. Just a quick run what's on it is not that much, but I think it's a really good idea to have something ready to go, especially when you're on your own. all it is please help me with a date. So you have to fill it in, obviously, when you have the accident. My name is, you put it in, my nationality, and then I say I speak English and German, my contact details, and then I had an accident and my motorbike is damaged. So if someone finds my motorbike somewhere and that is attached to it, they know what's going on. Then I have 2 lines here: I'm injured or I'm not injured. What you have to do is you cross the one out who is not relevant for you, and then I'm making my way on foot to, then you write down where you're walking to, and then I have water and food for 3 days, so people know what's going on. When they find the motorbike, they see the date, they see where I'm going, that I have provision, that I'm injured or not. I think it's really a good way being prepared. To take it a level further is I also have, in case of my death, what is not a good thing, but please contact, you put that underneath there, and then also medical condition. If you have allergies or diabetes or anything, you write that down, you put that in Google Translate, and on the other side you print it out, so you have English and you have the one relevant to the country you're in. So take 2 of them with you if something happened. I think it helps, because if they found you unconscious, at least they know what they have to do with you. So let's move on. Equipment wise, well, I have a few things I always take with me. 1, knives. So I always have, well, let's start with my Old Faithful. I always prepare to spend a little bit money on my equipment. This knife here is about 30 years old and it's retired now. That Galva knife was with me everywhere, but you know that it's not straight anymore and it's pretty blunt. You can't sharp it probably anymore. It really had his days. So I got myself something different. That is now my daily runner. It's a Spyco Para 3. They are not cheap. I mean, they are proper knives. You can take anything as long as it cuts, but you know, I do like invest in good gear. So that thing is super sharp, it's stainless steel, it doesn't rust. It's a bit tricky to sharp, but I actually have that always on me in my jacket. So whatever happens, I have a super sharp knife with me. If I fall in something, if I get tangled up, I always can cut myself out. On the other side, of course, when I'm camping and I know I go off-road and far away, I also have a bigger knife with me. I have that for quite a while. That is my Rad 5. That's like a proper working knife. It's got a nearly 5mm strong edge. You can chop wood with it, you can knock something out. You know, it is a really working knife. Now, one tip of advice: never ever show your knife in the open. It just causes trouble. You know, obviously when you're in America you run around with your knives and your guns, that's a complete different thing, but here in Europe you put that away. It's nobody's business you got it with you. You take it out when you need it. You can see, I mean, it's pristine because I always keep it in the bag. We are not there to show off. Another thing is, obviously, you need your lighters, and you have several of them hanging around on the motorbike. Put them in all the pockets, keep them watertight. However, they are not foolproof. When it comes to foolproof, I always have a little ferro rod with me. You can see I have that for quite a while. It's heavily used. They cost about £6. You can take them straight out of the water and they work. When they get wet, it's over and done with. And if you need fire in a hurry, I think that is your best bet. You know, it's like stuff you can keep forever somewhere on your bike. When it comes to helping yourself out of a difficult situation, I also have 60 feet, 20 meters, yeah, of para rope with me. Now, para rope is some super duper stuff. You have this one, for example, is super cheap and it pulls 550 pound. So that is some serious pulling power you can put on it. And if you have, like me, 20 meters or 60 feet of that stuff, you can double it up. You can do anything with it. You can use it to put up your tent. You can hold up a tarp. You can rig something together. You can build a floating device when you have to cross a river or whatever. It is just really handy to have. And if you come back from a trip and you used it, just get rid of it or use it around the house or whatever and cut off a new piece when you buy yourself a whole roll of it. I think they charge you now on Amazon, where I bought it, £15 or maybe $20 for a 100-meter reel. So it's not a big investment, but having something like that will always save the day. Now, another item I carry with me, and I think some of you maybe do that as well, is a few bits of rigging gear. Whoops. For example, this little roller, it looks ridiculously small, but it's actually genuine proper rigging gear. Well, I used to work in that business, so I still have this stuff. They are ideal if you have to lift up heavy stuff. You just hang that over the tree with a loop, something like that, or you use a hook, put a bit of rope on it so it's free hanging, and with that you can actually dig yourself out of a big problem. Now, I know it looks flimsy, but don't make a mistake, it's high grade aluminum. And just to give you some information about it, that actually pulls in either direction, or that way when you hook it in here, or that way, 11 kilonewton. Now 11 kilonewton is about 1100 kilo, so you can and you're able to use that to actually lift heavy gear if you have to. Obviously you're not running around and try to lift a car, but with a doubled up rope or tripled up rope and one of them, you have a good chance to get your bike out of a ditch. Same goes for these hooks, carabiner hooks. You know, they are the real deal. They are not buy 5 for a 10 on Amazon. They are proper climbing gear. And for example, I'll show you, this one got a pulling power of 22 kilonewton, so 2.5 tons you can pull with that. And with this one it's exactly the same. Now I have these for many years, and when you look at it, that stuff is heavily used. I use them on the bike all the time. You can hook them in some moley stuff, or you use them to rig up your tarp or whatever you want to. Having it makes all the difference. Then obviously another item is the good old Leatherman. Everyone should have one. The thing is, they actually stay really sharp. Last time on my trip I nearly chopped my finger off with that thing, so they are really good. Don't go for the heavy duty super big ones. That stuff is a bit of a nonsense, and it's more of a gimmick. All you need is a knife, a screwdriver, and maybe a set of little pliers, and it will do the trick, because, you know, don't overcook it. So that's the stuff I'm using. When it comes to lights, I have my headlight and I have a little torch. Now that torch is on its way out and the headlight is on its way out because they still work with batteries. And luckily now everything on my motorbike, from power to my laptop, from my accessories, everything, even to the drone, is charged via USB from my bike. I think, you know, check out another video. I showed you how to do it, and let me tell you, it works a treat. I can travel completely for weeks without having any issues with recharging. I may do a bit of a live video on the bike and show you exactly how I do it. There's another tip. If you feel like you, whoops, what's happened here now? It changed the angle. Never mind. If you start and thinking of taking a drone with you, just make sure you can use the power pack who comes with the drone as an emergency power supply. I just switched over my drone. I got the new DJI Mini, or whatever it's called, the tiny little one. That's good enough because, to be honest, no one wants to see your drone footage. You just use it to have a little bit of a B-roll and stuff like that. So that comes with 3 battery and a battery charger, but the battery charger also have a USB power out, so I can charge my mobile phone if I have to, and that is always good. If you can store power, it is something to consider. Very important stuff. So how you doing, guys? I think I'm boring the pants off you, don't I? So let's move on. What else do I have in my shit happens bag? A little bit of thicker rope. That is important when you have to tie something up and you have to see it, because the black rope you really don't see. One thing I want to tell you is, guys, if you go out and say you camp somewhere in the woods or whatever, don't run around in combat stuff, because beside the fact, if you're not in the army, you shouldn't wear combat stuff because it's a bit silly. And the other thing is, if people see you in normal gear, not swinging around a big knife, you are no threat to anyone. If you go and run around in your camouflage and with your knife in your hand, and you know, people get wary of you, and there's no point of that. So in the end of the day, we are guests wherever we go, and I think it's important that we behave like guests and not like a bunch of half-wits really who pretend to be Rambo. So that's just a little bit on the side. So I think when it comes to my immediate, let's call it survival kit, that's pretty much it. So I have nothing else I want to show you. Just need a little swig of my coffee, and then yeah, thank you very much, guys, for dropping by. I really appreciate that. That's my first ever real live stream out of my tent. It won't be the last one, I promise you that. I have it sussed now after a bit of panic today. One thing very quick, when it comes to knives, right, buy a good one. Whatever you do, do not buy one of these Rambo wannabe survival thingies with fishing hooks in it and stuff like that. If you want fishing hooks, buy some, put them in a little pocket and you're done with it. The compass on the stuff is mostly rubbish. The steel on the stuff is mostly rubbish. So, and you pay over the odds just because some guy who likes to run around in the woods put his name on it. So don't do that. Go to a really good company and buy something with what is made with really good steel, because it's just something you have to keep for many, many years. I know if I don't lose them, these 2 knives will last me to the end of my days. And just one quick thing about why I feel like having a proper knife on you when you're out and about on your travels. Well, that's a real good story actually, and I'm really proud of that. When I was a kid, I was about 10, I was in Austria with my dad and my mom on holiday, and my dad and me were like big outdoors guys, and my dad liked to hike and walking up the hills, and I basically, with some family friends, used the ski lift to go up a gondola, and my dad wanted to walk, and 2 hours up there, no sign of my dad. So I panicked a little bit, and I was about 10 years old, and someone gave me money, and I looked in one of these binoculars you see on these. In the old days, you've seen them mounted there, and I saw a tiny little dot halfway down the mountain, lying there and not moving, and I knew it was my dad. Obviously, I panicked, run down there, screaming my head off for help, but nobody did hear me because obviously up there was the ski lift. So as a kid, you scream, nobody takes you serious. I went down there, so they didn't hear me. I was screaming for help when I was running down the hill over fences and everything, and luckily, on the other side of the valley, someone made hay, and they did hear me scream, because down in the valley, where the ski lift was noisy as hell, nobody knew me. So they basically came to the rescue, but it took 3/4 of an hour until someone showed up. I found my dad. He was unconscious. I was lying there, so I just helped him as much as I could. He had water with him and everything, and I just tried to sort him out, screaming my head off in sheer panic. And then the guys came, and here comes where my knives came in. I had my little knife with me, because obviously I always had my knife in my little rucksack. And they actually found some old rope, used my knife to cut it up, make a little stretcher, put my dad on a little stretcher, carried him to a building further down, put him on a hay sled, and carried him to safety into hospital. And that is the reason why I always carry a knife, because you never know. It's not to show off, it's not to pose, because you will never see me running around with that thing, but I know when I need it, I have it. So I think it was a really good story, and my dad never forgot about that, and I will never forget that. So I may saved his life, and that was the knife he bought me back then. So guys, listen, I think let's call it a day, because I'm mumbling on. I'm absolutely delighted that you all participated in that one. I mean, I promise you I will do many more of those. There's lots of stuff we can talk about, and I will try to get a bit more sophisticated with that, so we can interact a little bit more. But I think as a start it wasn't too bad. It's getting a bit cold in here. I'm running out of canned coffee, but I really appreciate it. So guys, thank you so much. Now I can't switch it off on here. I have to go back in my studio to switch it off, because as I said, I'm just running a long wire. Whatever you do, guys, thank you very much, Mario, Steve, Derek, all the people here. Look after yourself, stay safe, stay at home if you have to, because it is not worth it. Just a quick one. I know we all feel invincible, but I never had so far any contact with anyone about the coronavirus, and just last weekend our window cleaner came. Obviously we kept distance, and he just told me that his brother-in-law died of the coronavirus, because his wife was a nurse and she brought it home, and he sadly passed away. So you never know, it doesn't take much. So guys, stay safe, don't judge other people who do stupid things, their business, but stay at home. Until next time, guy, bye, and look after yourself.